Hi, today we are going to talk about South Africa's timeline and events. Now, gold and diamonds are basically everywhere. Just think about it. They are used for jewelry, dresses, luxury stuff. And I can just go on and on about the things they are used for, but we are not here to do that. We are here to talk about South Africa. You are probably wondering what diamonds and gold have anything to do with South Africa. Well, I have a good answer to that. In 1867, the first diamond was found by a 15-year-old who was named Erasmus Jacobs. He found it along the banks of the Orange River. About 19 years after that, in 1886, the first person to find gold in South Africa was John Jarrett. Bond, yes. This time, though, it was found along the banks of Witwatersrand. Now all this is amazing and all, but we must move on. The next moment in the history of South Africa is the South African War. This was in between 1899 to 1902. It was a fight between the Africans and the British, also known as the Boer War. The Africans' goal was to maintain their independence, and they did really well. That was until 1918. The war was going on for a lot longer than expected. That was one of the reasons the war started to go downhill, though that was not the only reason. The war started to go downhill. The flu hit South Africa. Keep in mind that at the time they didn't have flu shots or really any medicine to help cure things. So people started passing quickly. Out of the population of 6 million, through 1914 to 1918, over 250,000 South Africans of all races voluntarily served their country, suffering about around 19,000 casualties. Over 7,000 South Africans were killed, and nearly 12,000 were wounded during the course of the war. Now, even after all that, they still had a problem with independence. Because in 1948 there was the beginning of legalized racism. This was the election of the National Party in 1948. That marked the beginning of legalized racism. Just imagine going through all that and still not get what you want. Just imagine seeing your friends, groups, and even your own family be slaughtered right in front of you for absolutely nothing. This is the main topic that is going to be explained in this video: apartheid. Now, we must move on, even though it doesn't feel right. The Constitution of 1961 was in 1961. This was when South Africa left Commonwealth and became a republic. After this, in 1962, we have something a little more exciting. It is the FIFA national football team. You are probably then again wondering what any of this has to do with South Africa. Well, let me explain. The South Africa football team ended up calling themselves the White South Africa National Team. The FIFA didn't like that, so they suspended the team. They then forced the South African football authorities to add black players to the team. 2 years later, we have to get back into serious mode because this is Nelson Mandela in the Rivonia trial. If you don't know who Nelson Mandela was, you will know now. He was a leader who held many speeches. He also would lead many protests. And this time the Gov didn't like it at all. After they found him hiding, they sentenced him to a life sentence in jail. They said he was trying to overthrow the government with his violent protesting. After serving a full 27 years in prison, he was released in 1990. After he got out, he continued to do his speeches. 4 years later, he helped the government in 1994 to make it so that everyone can vote. The voting lines were full of people because over 60% of people that lived in Africa haven't voted before because they weren't allowed. In that same year, Nelson Mandela became president.
He lived until 2013 when he passed due to bad health problems.